So, hi everybody. Welcome to this presentation on the theme of Shin Buddhism really is Buddhist, other power, going for refuge, and the bodhicitta. When Sensei John contacted me about the possibility of contributing to this series, he noted, half jokingly I think, that my book, The Promise of a Sacred World, makes Shin Buddhism sound like Buddhism. On the one hand, I took this as a great compliment, since it meant that I've shown how Shin Buddhism links to the Buddhist tradition and arises from earlier developments. On the other hand, the comment made me pause and reflect that Shin Buddhism is sometimes dismissed as not really Buddhism at all. Particularly in Western countries, it's not a tradition that has captured the attention of many seekers. It's routinely dismissed as a faith-based approach, faith being unfavorably contrasted with knowledge and therefore being of lesser value. This is not the time to engage in a detailed discussion of why Pure Land Buddhism hasn't caught the attention of the Western seeker in the way that Tibetan Buddhism or Zen or even Theravada have. What I want to do is to focus on how Shin Buddhism is really Buddhist, despite looking rather different from a number of other well-known approaches to Buddhism. So now I'm going to talk about the principal themes of the presentation. Going for refuge to the three jewels may be defined as a central Buddhist act, that which unites all Buddhists. The three jewels are the Buddha, the ideal of enlightenment, and obviously the guide, the exemplar, the Dharma, the teachings, or the truth itself, and finally the Sangha, the community of the enlightened ones, or on a more day-to-day level, the community of practitioners of the Dharma. It is in going for refuge to the three jewels that we enact commitment to Buddhism. And this process can be understood as taking place at ever deeper levels. On the surface, Shin Buddhism seems to reject going for refuge because all self-directed effort is calculation and therefore self-defeating. How might we understand Shinjin in the light of this fundamental principle of going for refuge? Shinjin being the central experience within Shin Buddhism. Moreover, the bodhicitta is the altruistic dimension of going for refuge. What is the relationship between the bodhicitta and Shinjin? In this presentation, we will see how Shinjin connects to these key Buddhist ideas. In particular, we will see how central to the notion of Shinjin is an interrogation of the personal, ego-driven will. In his conception of Shinjin, Shinran locates the impulse to practice, the urge to go for refuge, not outside ourselves in some external being, but beyond our day-to-day grasping will, or beyond the known self. In showing the continuity between going for refuge, the arising of the bodhicitta, and Shinjin, we will affirm that Shin Buddhism is orthodox and in fact steeped in the Buddhist tradition, especially Mahayana Buddhist teachings. Shinjin as real going for refuge. The fundamental practice of any Buddhist is to go for refuge to the three jewels. This means to place the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha at the center of one's life. It means to actualize these values more and more fully in our daily lives until we ourselves become our own refuge. We become the Buddha. Going for refuge is usually conceived as an act of individual choice and will, as expressed through a commitment to ethics, meditation, devotion, and the aspiration towards awakening. It requires us as individuals to decide to go for refuge and to make effort to do it. My teacher, Sangharakshita, has sketched out various levels of going for refuge, which describe ever deeper levels of connection with the three jewels. For the moment, we will explore 4 levels and then see how the Shin perspective may relate to them. So these 4 levels are provisional, effective, real, and absolute going for refuge. First of all, provisional going for refuge. Provisional going for refuge indicates a stage of connection to the 3 jewels where there is a genuine response, but it is not yet very clear, firm, or consistent. We may participate in some Dharma activities, perhaps we chant the Nimbutsu from time to time, but with limited understanding of what we are doing. We are also very dependent on favourable conditions to sustain any engagement with the 3 jewels and are quite easily distracted. Secondly, effective going for refuge. Effective going for refuge is a wholehearted, conscious commitment to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. This commitment is sincere and genuine, but it is not yet powerful enough to lead to decisive and permanent transformation, traditionally known as stream entry. At this level, we can still fall away from going for refuge. In Pure Land language, our birth in the Pure Land is not yet assured. Third, real going for refuge. This coincides with stream entry and represents a decisive break with our habits and a decisive connection with the nature of enlightenment, with the enlightened mind. From this level of going for refuge, it is not possible for us to fall away, and we will be carried along by an impulse that does not depend on favourable conditions or self-directed effort. The impulse to go for refuge has now become irresistible. And finally, absolute going for refuge. On this level, there is, in a sense, no going for refuge. Though we indeed go for refuge to the Buddha, now that enlightenment has been attained, we ourselves are the Buddha. We have become the Buddha. Here, the goal of our quest having been reached, the subject and the object of going for refuge are one and the same. In reviewing these levels of going for refuge, we can see a progression, a deepening of going for refuge, until it becomes decisive and then finds its ultimate fulfillment in the same awakening that the Buddha himself realized. We can also see that going for refuge makes use of a language of self-power. It is we that go for refuge. We make the effort. We make the breakthrough. So how does going for refuge relate to Shinran's teachings and the notion of Shinjin?